Well, let's get more analysis. We're joined by James Dorsey, adjunct senior fellow at Rajaratnam School of International Studies at Nanyang Technological University. Welcome. Now, Hezbollah just confirming the death of Nasrallah. What does the line of succession look like for Hezbollah?
The assumption is that Hassan Nasrallah will be succeeded by Hassan Nasrallah, who is his cousin. He's also the man who's been in charge of the more civilian wing, if you wish, of Hezbollah, things like finance, like education. Hassan Nasrallah was someone who was not seen in public in recent years, or barely seen in public. And so it was often Hassan Nasrallah who would represent him in public, for example, at the funerals of Hezbollah fighters and commanders who had been killed.
What does he inherit from the pager and radio blasts to Nasrallah's death? To what extent has Nasrallah's death crippled Hezbollah?
Well, there's no doubt that Hezbollah has suffered severe body blows. There's also no doubt that Israel has demonstrated intelligence and surveillance superiority. Now, having said all of that, groups like Hezbollah, or for that matter, Hamas, have a history of their leaders being killed by Israel. In fact, Nasrallah's predecessor, Musavi, was killed by Israel. You look at Hamas, their leaders were killed since the 1980s, and yet these organizations have survived and have grown. The question is, how long will it take Hezbollah to revive and to regroup? But at this point, I don't think that what we're seeing is a structural change. These are tactical victories.
Well, regrouping aside, as you said, that might take a while. They still have to respond. What might talk us through the possible scenarios from the development?
The problem that both Hezbollah and Iran have is they don't want an all-out war. Whether the death of Hassan Nasrallah has changed that, we'll have to see, but I tend to doubt it. I think from Israel's perspective, the strategy, given that Halevi, the chief of staff, have said that they're not finished yet, is going to be twofold. One is to take out the next layer of leadership, or even the successor. That's a tactic the Israelis have used in the past. And they're going to focus probably more than they have until now on taking out the weapons arsenal or significantly degrading it. The joker in all of this is not so much what Hezbollah will do, but much more what Iran will do.
Yeah, that is the question, isn't it? How concerned are you that Iran, staunch backer of Hezbollah, will now be forced to drawn into the conflict when they hadn't responded to perhaps earlier attacks?
I think Iran's in a bind. It does not want to be. Does not want an all-out conflict. It's got a president who is trying to rebuild bridges so that he can get sanctions relief. But on the other hand, increasingly, Iran will feel that it's being seen as weak, particularly as weak by its own allies, if it does not respond. And calibrating that response in a way that it does not lead to escalation is going to be a very difficult and a tightrope.
Where does this leave international efforts towards that peace deal? Is it too late for any kind of international intervention to rein in this already spiraling conflict?
Well, basically, I mean, at the end of the day, all of this rests on a Gaza ceasefire. And unless there is a willingness to pressure Israel in a real way, there's not going to be a ceasefire, at least not at this point. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has learned over the last year that, yes, there are differences with the United States, but the United States is not willing to put deeds where its mouth is for domestic political reasons. And as a result of that, certainly now with less than 2 months to go to an American election, and bolstered in his domestic standing as a result of the recent developments, Netanyahu is probably not going to budge.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. We do appreciate your time and your insight. I've been speaking there with James Dorsey, adjunct senior fellow at S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at Nanyang Technological University.